All right. So, what is it like to go to the Tampa Bay area jails as a female? So, one of the questions that I get asked is, you actually go into the jails to see clients? The answer is yes. So, first, we're going to talk about the Manatee County Jail. So, the Manatee County Jail is kind of off the beaten path. It's down like where industrial road is. Once you go in, you park, you go in through the front, and you'll be greeted by deputies who then will take your ID, your identification, verify, who you are, and then they will set you free to go up into the jail to meet with your client. Typically, I have gone into the elevator, I'll ride the elevator up, and then you're just walking down these long halls until you get to the room where the inmate or your client will be. Once you go into the room, the deputies will bring your client up. Now, mind you, I can't usually see the deputies, but somehow they're obviously able to see me, and my client does get there. There is privacy so that, I can speak with my client without the fear of somebody listening in and have that confidential communication with them. But it's a pretty chill and relaxed jail, not too hard to get to, but it is, far from where we are in St. Pete. All right, so quick story. I had to bring jail clothes down to Manatee for a client. We were set for trial. I know that I need to drive with a license. I forgot to bring my license and my bar card, my entire wallet. So when I pulled up to the Manatee County Jail, there's a check-in point before they allow you to travel in. They asked for my license and identification. I explained to him that I just forgot it. I just needed to drop off jail clothes. He let me go through the gate. And when I got to the front, I explained to them that I also forgot my license. They told me to just sit and wait. I sat in the lobby. I waited for probably 10 to 15 minutes. And then they finally called me up and they said that while I was waiting, they ran my license plate, unbeknownst to me, were able to verify who I was and thankfully allowed me to drop off the jail clothes. They said, do not let this happen again. But overall, the Manatee County Jail, no issues. I always feel safe going there. Everything seems, safe and secure at all times. All right, switching gears to the Hillsborough County Jail. So Hillsborough County Jail is kind of far out. It's not close to the courthouse. At least Manatee's probably about 10, 15 minutes from the courthouse. Hillsborough County Jail is a little bit further than that. I will say there are significant wait times because they only allow a certain amount of attorneys to go back and speak to their clients. So once you check in, we wait for them to call us back. We then go through a series of doors that need to be opened by the deputies. So you have to wait until they buzz you in. Once you get to the back of the first front building, you then walk through the courtyard area. And in this courtyard area, there's barbed wire. There's usually deputies zooming by on golf carts. And then you get to the area where you're going to meet your client. You go in, you check in with them, and then they will bring you back to a small room where you and your client meet. I've always felt safe meeting with clients back there. I've never had anybody that I've been concerned about, thankfully. They sometimes will have like a buzzer on the door in case you need to press it. I have never had to press the buzzer. But overall, Hillsborough is an easy jail to get to and get to your client. However, sometimes when you get there, even early in the morning, you could be waiting a while since there is only a certain number of rooms for you all to meet at. The Pinellas County Jail is where I have been the most, where I've spent a lot of time, obviously working in Pinellas at the public defender's office there. There are several buildings. There's the health wing. There is the South or Max division. There is Central, and there's also C. So health is not connected to the main building. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, we were able to walk around the campus or the jail complex. Unfortunately, we are no longer able to do that. Some attorneys have acted inappropriately with clients, and we are now having to be escorted. So you check in to the front desk, and then if you need to go over to health or to C barracks, somebody will escort you on a golf cart, and then you can check in at the health wing or at C barracks. We'll talk about health real quick. As for health, so long as your client is not on the second floor, it's usually okay. The second floor is where most of the people with severe mental health issues are. The other departments, usually they're a very wide open room with lots of bed and lots of inmates. So you'll walk through these steel doors, they'll have to buzz you in. And then you walk in, you're at this desk, and you can just see all of the people in health just all out. Sometimes they're watching TV, playing games, laying in bed, and then they'll direct you to a small room. Obviously, you can see in and out. It's not that there is privacy, obviously, to speak with your client. Thankfully, no issues with any of the clients, whereas I ever felt like my life was in jeopardy or anything of that. So that's been good. In C barracks, that's where a lot of the inmates are housed. C barracks is where a lot of inmates work to earn time off of their sentence. When you go over to C barracks, you walk down a long pathway. You check in at the front desk. They'll put you in a room and put your client there. That can be a little concerning sometimes, mainly because a lot of the inmates come and go. And sometimes they'll put the inmates out in the lobby of the C barracks. So if I'm in there, they can usually see into the room. So I usually try to switch seats so that if there are inmates waiting in the lobby, they cannot specifically see me when I am sitting in there. Sometimes they'll make comments that, you don't necessarily need to hear, but overall, C barracks is where, again, the people are that are trying to just work off time and get out of jail. Next is Central. Central is in the same building as Max, or what they call South Division. Central is pretty easy to get to. You go up the elevator and then you hit one of the floors. Once you're in, they'll put you into a small room. The room is open, does not lock. There is a door, but at least the deputy, if you need to, come out of the room for any reason, there is a deputy there if you have to ask any questions. But overall, everything's good there. The last division is South Division, also known as Max. So that when you in that division, or no, in Max, you will check in with the front desk. You then go through security. You will then head to the desk where you tell the deputy what client you want to see. Now, there's two options. They can either have the client come down and meet you in one of the conference rooms, or you can go up to what they call the wing. I usually like to have them come down into one of the conference rooms. It's just more private, it's more comfortable. There's usually more chairs, a bigger table. So that's always a good place to start and meet with your client. I have gone up to the wing before. It is usually quicker that way. The only thing that I don't like about going up to the wings is usually you have to walk down a long hallway after you get off the elevator. And then it's kind of like a fishbowl where there's inmates on both sides that they can see you. They don't always bang on the glass, but sometimes they can. Sometimes they can yell. I usually look just straight forward as I'm going to the deputies to find out, where my client is and what room I'm going to be in. The other thing that can be, concerning going up to the wing is if I don't really know a client, you do get locked into a small room. They do give you a buzzer that you can press if there's an issue, because you are locked in there, and no, a deputy does not stand right outside the door. So if I'm meeting a client and I'm not sure, how it's going to go, that's always a concern. But for the most part, I've never had any issues. I will say, probably, I don't know, eight years ago or so, I had to meet with a client over at South, over at the Max Division. And one of the something in the allegation, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had battered his mom, did something violent against his mom. And I just remember, thinking to myself, if he can do something to his mom, who knows what he can, do. But honestly, after I met him, he was a very nice guy, just made a mistake, made some wrong decisions, but never had any issues. I did ask a deputy on that occasion to please stand outside of the room, just because I had not met this person before. And the deputy was more than willing to accommodate me. So I know a lot of people say, oh, you go over to the jail where all these, bad people are. I like to say that I go over to a facility where people have made some bad mistakes and some bad choices, and with a sprinkling of those who are wrongfully accused. But for the most part, I think, going over to the jail is crucial. It is important to meet with your client face to face. There's really nothing to be scared of. And if I was scared, I'd take my husband, but thankfully I haven't felt that I needed to do that. Thanks for listening in on what it's like to go over to the jail as a female. For more content, follow Fletcher and Fletcher Trial Attorneys.